Good evening, and thank you so much for taking the time to learn more about the candidates running for office to represent you. My name is Kim Gammond, and I am the Executive Director for the City Club of Central Oregon. If you'd like more information about this candidate forum or any of our other forums, please visit us at cityclubco.org. We are a passionately nonpartisan organization that is here to inform the voters through these forums. All candidates were invited to participate in this forum and given instructions about guidelines and codes of conduct. At City Club, our mission is to build a conscious and civic-minded community that results in responsible civic engagement. We do this through community forums, utilizing the tools of civility to promote productive and sane conversation. You can learn more at cityclubco.org.
Okay, wonderful. Well, hello, I am Karli Olson from Central Oregon Daily. It is my pleasure to be the moderator for the 2022 Jefferson County Sheriff Forum. Today we have current Sheriff Marc Heckathorn and his challenger Jason Pollock with us. A third candidate, Rick DuPont, declined to participate. So in this race, if one candidate gets over 50% of the vote, they will be elected. If no candidate hits the 50% mark, the top two candidates will face each other in November. So we will commence this with 1 minute opening statements and 90-second responses from each candidate to predetermined questions and 2-minute closing remarks from each candidate. The order of responses will be random and I will call on the candidates. So Marc, we'll start with you with your opening remarks for 1 minute.
All right. Well, thank you. I'm Marc Heckathorn. I'm the Sheriff of Jefferson County. I'm the longest serving employee at the Sheriff's Office, having 27 years of law enforcement experience total. 21 of those years I've been serving as a sergeant or higher in rank. I've personally worked and or supervised every division and position at the Sheriff's Office. I'm a lifetime resident of Jefferson County. I graduated from Madras High School in 1994. I obtained my associate's degree in 1996. I actually went back to school and achieved my bachelor's degree in criminal justice in 2017. I've been happily married for 21 years to my high school sweetheart and have 2 children. One's a freshman going to college at OSU Cascades in Bend, and another's a freshman at Madras High. I'm an avid community volunteer, and I'm a member of both the Jefferson County Kiwanis Club and the Madras Elks Lodge. I've served as a councilman for the city of Madras, did that for 5 years. I volunteer on numerous committees and have coached both Little League and soccer. I love Jefferson County and all that it offers. I won the 2021 Public Service of the Year Award presented by the Chamber, and I have a deep desire to serve the county and protect it. Thank you.
All right, Jason, go ahead with your opening remarks for 1 minute.
Thank you. I'm Jason Pollock. I currently have been in law enforcement for about 18 years. I grew up here in Jefferson County. Went to school in Culver my entire life, and well, not my entire life, but most of my young life. And I've raised my kids here in Central Oregon. Currently live in Madras, and since I've been in law enforcement, I've participated in a number of things with the community, ranging from coaching football to going to specific events for the office. And throughout my career, I've also held many positions, ranging from patrol deputy to patrol corporal, detective, search and rescue coordinator, so as well as working Marine Patrol. So I too have some experience as well, working with the Sheriff's Office in the last 11 years. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, so the first question is for you, Jason, and you have 90 seconds to respond. What types of experience should someone bring to this position?
Well, I think number one, the most important thing for people to have when it comes to law enforcement is the experience of empathy, and that is not something that you can just have. Empathy comes from a background of being involved in the community, responding and dealing with those difficult calls, which I have done my entire career, and a number of investigations ranging from domestic violence calls to traffic crashes involving fatalities, to homicides, rapes, child abuse, And so that's kind of where empathy comes from, as well as your own personal experience and growing up and the things that you have gone through in your life. And life is a roller coaster. There's ups and downs, and I think it's important that as a person that grows in the community, you grow with them.
All right, thanks, Jason. And Mark, same question to you. What types of experience should someone bring to this position? Oh, you're muted.
There we go. The position of sheriff is it's a very special position. It's the only law enforcement position in the country that's an elected position. And so having that ability to be trusted and known and well respected in your community is hugely important. I think having a track record allows people to know whether or not you're believable or not. And so having that credibility is hugely important in this office. For me, I've got a really broad range of experience. I've been here since 1999, working at the sheriff's office. Worked my way up from the bottom, from an entry level. Actually, I was hired as a reserve initially, then hired as a full-time deputy. Worked my way up the patrol side, managing and supervising all aspects of this office. In 2016, when I was promoted to the rank of under sheriff, I also then started learning about the jail. The jail is actually our biggest budget. It has more employees. It has, we hold all of our inmates there. It has the most liability. So I bring that background of not only leading the patrol division, but also leading that side of corrections. I think that's an important part. I've for years have been in charge of Marine Patrol for the last 22 years, been in charge of search and rescue over that time. So including major crimes and investigations. And so what you need is somebody that's really well-rounded. As under sheriff, I've been preparing to take over for Sheriff Adkins upon his retirement for the last 5 years. So that put me uniquely qualified to be able to have this opportunity once I took office. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Mark. Okay, let's switch gears a little bit to talk about how you feel about certain issues. So, Mark, we'll start with you for this question. How should the sheriff engage with groups like People's Rights, and are they an extremist group in your view?
Well, I went and talked to People's Rights. So I took office in July of 2021, just last year. Really didn't have any background with that particular organization. I went and spoke to them back in November about the jail levy and kind of did an introduction. And so I never try to paint any one particular organization or one member as everything. But I got an experience from that group. They made some demands that they wanted me to do as an organization. Not every member that attends it had this same issue, but as an organization, they wanted me to do some things that I wasn't comfortable in doing. They wanted me to declare Jefferson County a sanctuary state to where our county, so that way COVID rules and restrictions and governor mandates couldn't be enforced. They wanted me to lead the way in telling parents to not send their kids to school because of the mask mandate. They wanted me to have to ask doctors and nurses to resign their positions, and basically the task was to build. We would build something new, and I don't believe I have that authority. I'm never going to make a promise that I can't keep. I've worked well with the Oregon State Sheriff's Association. I'm well versed in what rules and regulations I can and cannot enforce. And so for me, I wasn't going to bend to some of those demands that particular group had. I was offered to speak to that group again 2 weeks ago. I declined it. I went to a different event. That's a group that is a good question for Jason, as that's one of his key demographics.
All right, thanks, Mark. And yes, Jason, same question to you. How should the sheriff engage with groups like People's Rights, and are they an extremist group?
I don't believe that the majority of them are extreme. I think that they're community members just like you and I believe that they have some valid concerns. I think 2020, 2021 has shown people and kind of opened people's eyes to understand what big government has done and what they will continue to do if people don't stand up. And I think that's kind of where People's Rights is coming from. They're a large group. They're getting larger, and I think that it's important for people to stand up for their rights, which is exactly what they should be doing. I'm happy to be a part of that. Now, I think there are choices that people can make, that are not necessarily in line with people that are part of that group. That may be somewhat extreme, but that doesn't define the whole group. It's no different than law enforcement. When a law enforcement officer gets in trouble, that should not define the whole entire country as a whole when it comes to law enforcement. So judging them by that, I think is wrong and shouldn't.
All right, thanks, Jason. We'll start with you for this next question. Have you ever been disciplined while an employee of the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office or any other department?
Was that question for me?
Yes, for you, Jason. I apologize.
Yes, I have been disciplined. I've been disciplined with the Sheriff's Office, and I have been disciplined also with Madras Police Department. I think that anybody that has worked in law enforcement, has been on the road as long as I have, and has made as many contacts with the public as I have, would be a person that would get complaints, or there would be some sort of disciplinary issue that would arise. We are human, just like anybody else. And I think it's important for people to understand that there are going to be times where we do get disciplined.
All right, and then Mark, same question for you. Have you ever been disciplined while being an employee of the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office or any other department?
So I've only worked for the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office and the Oregon State Police. During both times, I've never had any formal discipline in my file. And I think there's a big difference between what my opponent talks about of being, a complaint. Complaints can come in. Lots of people get complaints, but people don't get disciplined for complaints that aren't founded. So if you think about a complaint that comes in, one of the things that I like that we have at our office is body-worn cameras. We implemented that. Actually, one of the agencies that did that before a lot across Central Oregon. And so we've had body cameras for a long time. Those things help provide transparency to the public, but it also provides a way to review allegations of misconduct. And so when it comes to actually having formal discipline in somebody's file, you don't get that for an unfounded complaint. Something has to have happened and something would have had to been investigated, and then you get in trouble for not living up to those expectations. And so there's a little bit of a difference between a complaint and an actual discipline process. I've been in charge of disciplines, doing the primary, those kind of investigations at the office. One thing I'm proud about is that, complaints do come in for the vast majority of time. They are unfounded. A lot of times people have a complaint will come in and it's not even from someone that was at the scene. They just heard about something. And once the facts come out, that's one thing I'm proud about is doing those investigations. When we need to hold somebody accountable, we absolutely do here at the Sheriff's Office. But a lot of times, and for the most, they're unfounded, thankfully.
Okay, thanks, Mark. And then we'll start with you, Mark, for this next question. Did you support the last jail levy, and what was your reasoning?
Yes, I've been highly involved with the jail levy. Ever since we moved up here in 2000, we've had an operation levy to run our jail. And so I've been a part of those elections for multiple years as a sergeant, as a captain, and as the undersheriff. And so highly involved in that entire process. Jefferson County, before we opened up our new jail up here, had the highest crime rate in Central Oregon. The day that this jail opened, all of a sudden our crime rate back in the early 2000s dropped to the lowest crime rate in Central Oregon. So it's a hugely important facility to have open. I worked last summer and in the spring figuring out how we could run this jail at the most cost-effective manner possible. I worked with finance and came up with a rate. We put that rate onto the ballot last November. I did community meeting after community meeting, Zoom meeting after Zoom meeting. I created a citizens group that was involved in passing it. So for me, I was highly involved in that. One thing that I was disappointed in my opponent is that he was silent on that entire topic. If that levy wouldn't have passed last November and only passed by 94 votes, we'd be trying to pass that measure right now. With inflation and a sheriff's election going on right now, I think it would have been pretty difficult to have passed. So I'm really fortunate that we did the work last November, but no comments, no public support, no attending of meetings, no posts on social media. I was disappointed that my opponent didn't help. It's just that important for our community, whether I'm the sheriff or he is.
Alrighty, and then so Jason, same to you. If you'd like to, respond to any of Mark's comments, and did you support the last jail levy, and what was your reasoning?
Yes, I actually did support the jail levy. I didn't feel that, given my position, it was appropriate, given this election, for me to step in and basically try to do the current sheriff's job for him. So privately, yes, I supported the jail. I think it is important for us to have the jail. Obviously, it was built, and it is important for us to maintain the jail. It speaks volumes when we look back at 2020 and my opponent and his decision making and cutting back and putting people into, or lack thereof, putting people in our jail, and what the crime rate did in 2020. It was his choice. He was a major part of that. And as we move forward, I think that we need to move in a different direction away from a jail levy. And I think that we need to move more towards a sheriff's levy, something that's a little more stable for the office, both on the patrol side and on the jail side.
Alrighty, thanks, Jason. And we'll start with you, Jason, for this next question. We'll talk a bit about management now. What would the priorities be for the deputies in your department?
I think the priorities kind of surround some of the issues that we've been facing for a number of years. We have not been a part of the Central Oregon Drug Enforcement Team since 2013. So that would be a priority, as well as getting involved in the schools. That would be a priority, not just 509J school, but the Culver School District, all the way out to Camp Sherman. Warm Springs has a school resource officer out there that participates in the schools. And I think working with community partners and getting that done is important. So those would be some of my top priorities in moving forward as a sheriff.
All righty. And Mark, same question for you. What would be the priorities for the deputies in your department moving forward?
Well, a couple of things. I do want to set the record straight. When my opponent talks about the jail being closed in 2020 and being some of the stuff restricted, I wasn't the sheriff in 2020. That was Sheriff Jim Adkins that ran the organization in the office and set the rules that I followed just like he did. But moving on into priorities, I think that's another thing that's a difference between me and Jason, is that Jason focuses on patrol. We have a lot of deputies that work in the jail, and there's a lot of different things that go on besides just patrol focused. So for us, I have a lot of short-term goals and long-term goals that we're working under. When we talk about schools, doing law enforcement in the schools and such, I've already met with the superintendent with the Culver School. I've also met with the mayor of Culver, Jake Schwab, and we've discussed maybe figuring out ways to partner with a contract that will allow some patrols going on in the schools as an SRO, but also patrolling in Culver. So a lot of these conversations are already underway. But short-term goals, first thing we need to do is enhance our community trust after this election. It's been a really divisive election, and I want to work on that, increasing our employee morale. Having a divided office during this campaign for the last 10 plus months has been really tough on staff. Jim announced that he was going to retire from sheriff back in March of last year, so it's already been more than a year. But things that we're doing is getting deputies out on the streets. We've got more better coverage than what we've ever had. We have now North and South County dedicated patrols that are helping responses. We're doing more traffic enforcement, working on grants. I see my time is up, but thank you.
All right. Okay, and Mark, we'll start with you for this next question. Let's change to the topic of homelessness. How can the Sheriff's Department work with our homeless population and service providers, and how would that help the community overall?
Well, homelessness is one of those situations that's really bad in Oregon, but it also affects the entire nation. And so this is a process that we've been working on. So I've attended meeting after meeting where we talk about homelessness and what kind of outreaches we can we can provide and we can do. I've met with our Jefferson County commissioners. I have also met multiple times with in joint sessions with the city of Madras. The homeless population is the highest condensed area within the city of Madras. And so they've got an area that's established where they're allowing some of the homeless to stay instead of moving. They're on public lands. They're building a homeless shelter. We go to meetings with Best Care and some of our prevention specialists. Our faith-based network provides a ton of outreach and education. But homelessness for some people is a choice and a lifestyle, where there's other folks that are homeless. They experience homelessness because of a society problem. So they're trying to get away from an abusive partner, or they've come to an area to help out with somebody and something bad has happened to them, and now they're experiencing homelessness as a result of that. So there's been more services and more outreach provided currently than what we've had in a long time. And so homelessness is a huge issue. The cost of inflation, the cost of housing, being able to get into homes. This is a community-wide problem that needs a community-wide solution. As a sheriff, I'm anxious to be part of those conversations and help wherever I can.
All righty. And then Jason, same question for you. How can the Sheriff's Department work with our homeless population and service providers, and how would that help the community overall?
Oh, well, I think that it's homelessness kind of, there is a lot of factors involved with that. Sheriff is right that it does contribute to it as a lifestyle for some people. However, some of that lifestyle comes from family history, and I believe it's deep rooted as far as drug abuse. And if we don't get a hold of that issue, which we've been lacking in for years, then we will see an increase in that. Once people abuse drugs, they rely on drugs, and they can't get employed. They cannot hold a job. They will not show up to their job. They can't pay their rent. They can't pay their car payments. They get suspended driver's license, and they just cannot sustain themselves in society. So I think by getting in the schools and participating and educating our students that drugs are bad and we should not be using them, or educating on what is out there, I think that as time goes on, we will see our youth starting to understand that, and I think that will help pull us out of it. I think we're in a cycle right now. Can we change current people right now? I don't know, but I think it's individually, it is a choice.
Alrighty, thank you. Moving on here. So Jason, we'll start with you. So how does the Sheriff's Department work with U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, and other immigration officials?
Currently, we don't. From my understanding, there's state law and federal law that doesn't allow us to do that. So currently there is, as far as I understand, there is nothing in place for us to work with them.
All right, thank you. And Mark, same question for you. How does the Sheriff's Department work with ICE and other immigration officials?
So when it comes to enforcement of immigration rules and regulations, those are federal laws, not state laws. I want our community to know that we have a really diverse county in Jefferson County. We've got a third Hispanic, a third Caucasian or white, and a third that are Native American. And I need all peoples to be able to trust the sheriff's office and what we're here to do in servicing them. And so for us, we don't have the ability to enforce any immigration rules. Those are federal laws. The ability that we do have is when a federal partner, including ICE, if they have an actual warrant signed by a judge that wants somebody to be taken into custody. We can work on those kinds of situations because it's actually signed by a judge. A lot of the ICE detainers are not signed by a judge. They're simply signed by an ICE agent. And so because it's not enforced by a judge, we don't recognize those, and the state actually prohibits any release of information about immigration status. We don't work that. I need our community to know that when they call us, whether you're documented or undocumented, that we're going to respond and we're going to provide you the service that you expect and treat you with professionalism and respect. But that's the only time that we're able to partner with ICE is if they have a warrant signed by a judge.
Alrighty, thanks, Mark. And we'll start with you for this next question. Mark, do you see tension increasing between law enforcement and citizens of Jefferson County? And how would you as sheriff affect any tensions?
When it comes to tensions, Jefferson County is a county that has always hugely embraced law enforcement. So when I was working here, I started here in 1999. We had Y2K was kind of a disaster that everybody was worried about. The community was well aware of it. And then we rolled right into 9/11. 9/11 happened and, the community really, really opened up and embraced us for multiple years. And it has really, since that time, law enforcement in Jefferson County has had an awesome name. We're well respected in this community. Tension-wise, there really isn't that. We're always having good contacts with people. We pass a jail levy, we pass operations levies when we need it, and we know how tough times are for people. The cost of a jail levy is hugely expensive on folks, and not everybody can afford that. We totally understand the sacrifices that people make to keep Jefferson County safe by holding criminals accountable for their behavior. But tension-wise, the most thing that I can say that's going on tension-wise has just been this election. This has been unnecessarily confrontational for some people. There's, both Jason and I work at the same office. After this election, we're still going to be working at the same office. There shouldn't be any tension. I hope and will respect whatever the outcome is with the election. And I hope we can build this community back together. I'm sure as sheriff that I'm going to be able to do those kinds of things, but that's big for me. That's the only tension that I really feel in our community. We're in a very good spot right now.
Alrighty, thanks, Mark. And Jason, same question for you. Do you see tension increasing between law enforcement and citizens of the county? And how would you as sheriff affect any tensions?
Well, I think that we living here in Central Oregon are pretty blessed on what we have here. We're not seeing the issues that we see on the news that happen up in Portland. And as a guy that has worked the street for as many years as I've worked the street, it's the support that we have seen from the public. It has been positive. And I rarely run into somebody that has something negative to say unless they've personally had some sort of negative contact with police. And it kind of goes back to what I was saying about branding police across the nation for one officer that makes a bad decision. And sometimes that does bleed over. Central Oregon Madras is an area where lots of people travel through. And so we have lots of contacts with people from outside the area. And so if there is any kind of negativity, sometimes it's because somebody has had that negative contact with law enforcement in the past.
Okay, thanks, Jason. So Jason, we'll start with you for this next question. Guns are now the leading cause of death for children and teens in the United States. What, in your view, can law enforcement do to help reduce gun violence?
I think it comes down to education. I have 3 kids myself. I own guns, and I think it's important. You kind of just take the curiosity right out of the child if you take them out and you teach them properly. Taking them out and showing them what guns can do, and making sure that they understand that they should not touch them unless instructed to do so by an adult. And even securing your weapons. If you have a safe at home or a gun lock on your gun, you should have it on there. So I think that's the most important. It comes down to individual people and educating themselves so they can educate their children.
Alrighty, thanks, Jason. And then Mark, same question for you. What can law enforcement do to help reduce gun violence?
Well, for law enforcement's role in trying to lower any kind of gun violence situations, is a lot of it just needs to have that education that comes along with knowing about weapons. And, living in Jefferson County, we're a pretty rural community. Lots of people have firearms. When we make contact with folks, somebody actually having a weapon isn't a huge surprise. A lot of people have concealed weapons permits. We offer those at the sheriff's office. We encourage people to get trained, to get educated, whether it's an adult or a child. Just because you're an adult doesn't mean that your lifestyle you may have been brought up to where you know about weapons and firearms. And so we do a lot of community outreach. We do events, we do fairs, we provide those gun locks at our events. We have those sitting at the sheriff's office available to give to folks. Deputies, when they're out on calls, they have those kinds of tools that they can carry with them, provide them to people. But I think that's an important part of just our entire education that goes on, including our school systems. Sometimes we simply teach that guns are bad, and that there's a lot more that goes to it. There's a lot more knowledge that needs to be passed along for people that do have weapons in their home. I know both of my girls that I have aren't hunters, but they both went through the NRA's youth program to learn about firearms, to learn about safety. I think that's important for everyone to do, and I encourage people to get educated, whether you're a child or an adult.
Alrighty. Okay, and so Mark, this next question will start with you. Should the position of sheriff be elected, and what are the differences between an elected law enforcement leader and an appointed one?
Well, by statute, there's no difference whether you're appointed or elected. Once I was appointed sheriff, both Jason and I went before the county commissioners. They listened to us. We turned in applications. They did interviews and made a determination. So statute-wise, for the state of Oregon, once you are the sheriff, whether you're appointed or elected, all of the good or all of the bad that comes along with it. One thing about being sheriff is that there's over 170 different statutes that are you're immediately required upon taking office. You're responsible for those 170 plus statutes that dictate what a sheriff is required to do. I think it's important to have the sheriff actually elected. I'd much rather have the backing of the community that stands behind me. The county commissioners they go before the voters, and they have to be elected to get into that position in the first place. So when the commissioners speak, they're speaking for the people. But that's why I think it's really important. We're having this election right now in May to make this decision. We've already been, like I said, Sheriff Adkins announced that he was going to retire in March of 2021, and we're in May of 2022, and we're still trying to figure out who long-term is going to be the sheriff of Jefferson County. There's a lot of things that I want to do that I've been holding back on because I'm wanting to know, I don't want them to be undone if I'm not to be the sheriff. And so I think it's hugely important. This gives the backing of the people should always be able to make this decision. And I completely support that the sheriff is an elected position across this state of Oregon. Not everywhere is like that. And so Oregon is unique.
Okay. Thank you, Mark. Jason, should the position of sheriff be elected, and what are the differences between an elected law enforcement leader and an appointed one?
I do believe that the sheriff should be elected, and the reason why is because it gives the people the power, and the people should have the power to elect who they want as sheriff. I think through this whole thing, being transparent and making sure that you're honest and forthcoming with the public and letting them know where you come from, what you stand for, gives them the ability to make good choices. Yes, I do believe that it is important for the sheriff to be elected, and going back to being appointed, yes, per statute, the elected versus appointed is virtually the same.
Alrighty, Jason, and we'll start with you for this next question as well. Talking a little bit about your life outside of work. What types of civic and volunteer work do you do outside of work?
Outside of work, I've participated in coaching football. I coached football, Pee Wee football for 3 years with a good friend of mine. So I was involved with that. There's other things that I've been involved with as far as coordinating with stuff that kind of flows over to my work. And so kind of making people understand, I am human, and getting out and participating in community events. We just had a event at the Culver High School involving donkey basketball. I was there. I interacted with people, and I plan on being at future events as well. It makes it a little bit tough for me because when I'm at work, the law restricts me from being able to do certain things that the current interim sheriff can do.
Alrighty, thanks, Jason. And then Mark, what types of civic and volunteer work do you do outside of work?
Well, outside of work, I've been hugely involved in Jefferson County. So like I already said, that I'm part of the Jefferson County Kiwanis Club. Been a member of that. Been a member of the Elks for a very long time, for probably close to 15 years, from the Madras Elks Lodge. I've been involved with 4-H and FFA for multiple years. Both my daughters have raised sheep in those programs, so we learn about animals and animal care, and ultimately the auction, learning where your food comes from. But back in 2002, I was appointed. I was initially appointed to fill in, and then was elected to serve on the Madras City Council. I did that for 5 years. After I got done on the City Council, I stayed part of the Airport Industrial Site Committee. I stayed a part of the Budget Committee, the Madras Urban Renewal District on their budget committees, and the cities for multiple years. I've been on the Deschutes Valley Water Budget Committee. So these are all things that are well outside of my scope of employment. I've always done fairs, always done parades, always done those kind of events, whether at the sheriff's office or with a different group. So I'm hugely involved in this community. When I talk about volunteerism and the work that I've done, I've went above and beyond in my position at the sheriff's office. I've been helping pass a jail levy, for example. I've been a part of multiple volunteer committees for probably the last 15 years. Those are all done outside of work, but have a benefit of trying to pass a measure for the office. Thank you.
All right. All right, thanks. And then Mark, we'll start with you for this next question. Do you view Jefferson County as a welcoming place, and how can the sheriff's office affect that?
Oh, yes, Jefferson County is a hugely welcoming place. People that don't know the county, and sometimes we get a reputation that's really not deserved. Jefferson County is a beautiful place full of beautiful people. There's every opportunity to get involved in this community. It's one of the things I tell a lot of people, is that there's a lot of organizations and clubs that you can get involved with. You just got to have the desire to want to get connected to those services. The sheriff's office, we're hugely involved, because one of the things that I do a lot is I'm an avid poster on social media, trying to let people know what's going on in this community. I'll post about events and activities. I'll go to those activities, and I've been going to those kinds of things for years. But as sheriff, it's actually fun to be able to take that up to a next level. Some agencies are, Deschutes County is an example. The sheriff has PIOs that make announcements for him. Well, for my office, I am the PIO. When I'm down at the high school basketball game for a state playoff game, or just for a regular game, I like to comment about the good things that are going on in the county. Showing when we do escorts for people that are heading off to state. Those are things that I implemented probably 6 years ago. And now they've taken off in the city of Madras for the 509J school district, but also for the Culver school district. We do send-offs. And so all of our deputies every day are basically representatives of the county. And so when we're contacting folks, leaving that positive taste in their mouth is hugely important for me, because I want people to come to Jefferson County and see the great place that we have here.
All righty, thanks, Mark. Jason, is Jefferson County a welcoming place in your view, and how can the sheriff's office affect that?
Yes, so I do believe that Jefferson County is a welcoming place. I think that through the years that we've seen, and certainly growing up here, I've seen a number of people from outside the community, outside the state, that like to come here and vacation. We have Lake Billy Chinook, we have the area of Camp Sherman, we have Settle Lake, all those recreational areas where people like to come and spend their summers out on the lakes, camping, having a good time. You got Three Rivers area where there's a lot of it's a gated community where it's private and people get to go enjoy spending time out there on their own property, having a private access to the lakes. And our participation in that, from a law enforcement standpoint, we recognize that the people that come in from outside our community, they enjoy it, and it's good for business. It's good for our office, and when we are able to have those positive contacts with those people that like to come here, I think it shows who we are as a community and as a sheriff's office.
All righty, Jason, and we'll start with you for this next question as well. Let's talk about law enforcement as a system. How is law enforcement changing from your view, and how would you like to see it change further?
Well, from my view, some of the things that I've seen that have changed, you talk about restriction on some of the laws that we can and can't enforce anymore. We just received an email regarding some traffic laws that we can no longer enforce, as well as, the drug laws and how they have changed in our community and how that has affected our community. I think that there needs to be more education when it comes to understanding those new drug laws and how they affect whether we can or cannot arrest somebody or whether it's just a citation. I've had experience in dealing with this. I've worked with community partners and reaching out to the district attorney's office and talking to them throughout my career. And so I think just working with community partners and coming to an understanding of what's best for our community and implementing that.
All right, thanks, Jason. Mark, how is law enforcement changing from your view, and what would you like to see change further?
Well, law enforcement has changed just, a ton since I started back 27 years ago in 1996. And I think a lot of the stuff has actually been positive. Oregon has been pretty progressive in how they've trained law enforcement. I think that was a huge change that they did, going from a 10-week police academy back in 2006 to a 16-week police academy has greatly increased the professionalism of officers that are coming out of that academy. But I think some of the things are actually, not everything that's a change is necessarily bad. My opponent talks about some of the traffic laws that can't be enforced. Well, they can still be enforced. They're just no longer a primary violation. So somebody maybe has a headlight out that we would normally be able to stop just for that headlight violation. Now we have to have another reason to make the stop. We can still inquire if we have probable cause to make that stop for a different reason. Say they're driving too fast and have a headlight out. I can still enforce that no headlight once I make contact with them. It just can't be the primary reason for that traffic stop. And so a lot of things that we have done, some things we've changed probably over the last 15 years, is good in response to mental health. We would be doing calls for welfare checks when somebody would call in, and across this country, people were sometimes doing those checks on people getting into use of force situations and getting into sometimes shootings. All when we're trying to respond there to help save somebody's life, we end up taking their life. And so a lot of the changes that have happened is because law enforcement is changing and we're becoming smarter and doing things a little bit more efficient. So thank you. All
righty. Yeah. So, all right, we're coming close to the end of our questions here. Mark, we'll start with you. What's the difference between being a leader in the sheriff's office and being the leader as the sheriff?
Well, I'm a firm believer that everybody is a leader, whether you're the newest employee that's hired or whether you're the longest term person or the highest ranked person in the office. Leadership comes from all walks of life and from all levels. I know for my perspective, every time that I was promoted, those expectations go a little bit higher and a little bit higher because you are now representing a group of people that are below you. So in 2001, when I was promoted to sergeant, I had an expectation and a community standard that I need to hold. But I can say from being a sergeant to being the sheriff, it's night and day difference. The importance of what I do, what I say it, how I act carries volumes and carries weight. The last thing I ever want to be is any kind of negative or draw down upon this office. This office and its employees are hugely important to running and providing a safe place for our community to live, to work, to play. So for me, I'm out front as a leader. If you've seen me the last 10 months as sheriff, you couldn't have missed me because I have been to every community event. I lead the way when it comes to, I'm not one that just presents information and then doesn't follow it up. When I put out something, I walk the walk. I'm going to events, I'm going to community events. I was at Docky basketball, I was at Life Lemons, and I was at the Steel Stampede on Saturday because those were all community events that were happening in my county. And I think I need to lead the way in that.
All righty, Mark. Going to you, Jason, same question. What's the difference between being a leader in the sheriff's office and being the leader as the sheriff?
Well, I think that, people can be leaders all the way from the bottom. And it just really kind of depends on how involved they want to be, how motivated they are. And, for me in working in law enforcement, I've in 2011, I received the team award. In 2019, I received the patrol deputy award. And so I think that it speaks volumes when you have a number of people that are willing to come to you and feel comfortable in coming to you, regardless of your position, and ask you advice. And you give them good advice, or if you don't know, that it's important that you help them find the answer to that question, whatever it may be. And so being a leader comes from a point of having the experience and knowledge of working the road and dealing with those hard things, because oftentimes as a guy that works the road, you walk into a situation and you don't necessarily know exactly what the heck is going to happen with that situation. And so you have to think on your feet. And so thinking on your feet and having those hands-on in the trenches experience allows you to give good advice to people that are either in the same position above you or below you, depending on how you look at it. So I think it's important to take care of the people within the office, because if you take care of those people from a sheriff's standpoint, they will take care of you and they will take care of the community.
All righty. Well, you two, we have come to the end of the questions, but let's start with you, Mark. Anything your opponent mentioned today that you would like to address?
The biggest thing that I can say is that there's just a huge difference between both my opponent and I. I'm excited that we have an opportunity to have this debate, to be able to have it provided to people. So I appreciate the City Club and Central Oregon Daily for helping put this thing together, and look forward to this election coming to a conclusion in May on the 17th.
Alrighty, and Jason, anything that Mark mentioned today that you would like to address?
No, I just I hope that come May 17th that we have a good positive outcome regardless of how it turns out, and that we're able to heal as a community and move forward for what's best.
Okay, well, now it is time for 2-minute closing remarks, and Jason, you will go first.
Well, I just want to say, I appreciate Central Oregon Daily having this forum, and me having the opportunity to come on here and speak and answer questions. I know that there's plenty of questions that people have asked, and I try to answer those questions as much as possible. I would encourage people to go on to my website, Jason Pollock for JeffersonCountySheriff.com. Look on there, click on the Meet Jason part, read through that. I also go to my Facebook page and read through some of the stuff that I keep up to date on there. I think a lot of people will get a lot of information and understand who I am and where I come from, and how deep my roots go here in Jefferson County.
Okay, thanks, Jason. Mark, your closing remarks for 2 minutes.
Okay. Well, people ask me why I do this job, and I say the same thing that I said when I first was hired into law enforcement in 1996. I love helping people, and I'm good at it. I'm honest, I'm dependable. The ability to help people in their time of need is why I really enjoy this job. Every situation is unique, and you have to have an open heart. I've spent more time with grieving families than I care to share. We've learned a lot of things, a lot of life lessons while being here over these last 23 years at this office. I do this job because I love it. I've worked hard, I've promoted, I continue to work hard. I kept promoting and was never satisfied. I kept learning and growing. I didn't need to obtain my bachelor's degree, and it cost me a lot of money. But I did it because the community deserves somebody that wants to develop oneself, shows determination, and it shows commitment to a law enforcement profession. I was the first person this office ever sent to the FBI National Academy in Quantico, Virginia. I wasn't required to go, but I wanted to develop myself and to keep growing. I've never been investigated or accused of misconduct, not once. My personnel file is available for public viewing. I was unanimously appointed sheriff by the county commissions who interviewed both me and my opponent. I was endorsed to take over as sheriff by the last two sheriffs. I've been preparing for this opportunity my entire life. I've been implementing new programs, new trainings, new technologies for the office for the last 20 plus years. There isn't really anyone more familiar with the complete operations and technical workings of this office than I am. I've won the life-saving awards. I've been selected as the employee of the year. I'm a trusted community partner, and I'm highly involved in all community outreaches. I say all this, but I also am the first to admit that I'm not perfect, and I try to stay humble. This campaign has weighed on my heart, and has made me and it's really hurt me and my family greatly. I want to continue serving as sheriff, but I'm not willing to lose my soul or make promises I can't keep. I've had a great 27-year career in public service. I will hold my head up high when my time is up. I'm not ready to retire and have the fire and energy to take the sheriff's office to the next level. Changes I've implemented as sheriff have been hugely beneficial to our community and my staff. Friends and neighbors have taken sides during this campaign, and it's hurt the community and public trust, I think, unnecessarily. We're all part of Jefferson County, and we will be here once the election is over. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Well, thank you to both of you for appearing today and for staying respectful of your times. I appreciate that. As a reminder, make sure your voice matters and vote by May 17th. I'm Karli Olson from Central Oregon Daily News. And on behalf of the candidates, the City Club of Central Oregon, and Connect Central Oregon, thank you for listening.